Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Saturday morning to you all. Hope you guys are doing awesome out there this morning and having a wonderful start to your day and a great beginning to your new weekend out there so far. There is much to get into in this morning's video, and we're going to kick it off with an update on the tropics. Signs are beginning to show up that the Atlantic is about to wake up as far as tropical activity. In fact, overnight model guidance really reflected this. So we're going to go over all that model guidance, talk about what's going on right now. Is there anything to worry about? We'll speak on everything. After we get done doing that, we'll give you an update on today's weather. If you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. And of course, if anybody has anything that I can pray about or pray over, please put it in the comments below. And stay tuned for the very end of the video if you want to join us for a Bible devotion. So let's get rocking and rolling this morning. Let's make sure this is going to work for us. And it is. So we're good to go. Listen, there isn't a whole lot to circle out there right now in the Atlantic. I will circle this area, just an area of disturbed weather that model guidance really likes the idea of a low pressure really developing. Is it going to gain tropical characteristics, develop into a name storm, which by the way is Dexter? Not quite sure. As of right now, the National Hurricane Center, they do not have an area of interest out on this, but we'll continue to watch that area I just circled. We have what's left over of a tropical wave, just a lot of convection, shower and storm activity sort of around the northern Lesser Antilles, sort of north of Puerto Rico, just entering the southwest Atlantic. We do need to watch this area. It could do something sneaky, but right now we're not expecting anything out of that. Now, we'll get these two circles off your screen. I do want to watch just out here in what we call the MDR, Main Development Region, or the Tropical Atlantic. It's an area of the Atlantic that starts to get more active as we get a little bit deeper into August and into September. And then after September, this area of the Atlantic begins to shut off, and we have to just continue to watch the Gulf and the Caribbean and the Southwest Atlantic. But signs, as far as model guidance, really starting to wake up that we could have a tropical wave that emerges over the Atlantic and could develop. So we just got to watch it, and it really gets this going in this area right into here. But as of right now, there's nothing really to speak on, really to circle, just some convection. And this is indicated, when I say convection, I mean shower and storm activity. So this is indicated like for example, this is a great example of that, right? We got the splashes of orange and red and the black kind of embedded into those two colors. This indicates colder cloud tops. And this tells us that we have some strong, taller updrafts, and the taller up they get, the colder it gets in the atmosphere. And this is reflected by these colors on your screen right here. So I just wanted to explain that. I know I go over that over and over again for people who tune in with every video, but for anybody that's tuning in that's new, I always just want to repeat that information. But as far as an update from the National Hurricane Center, as of the 1 a.m. Update Eastern Time, there is no tropical activity expected between now and the next 7 days. Now, I could see this changing sometime this weekend. We might get a 10 to 20% chance of tropical development somewhere, maybe off this energy off the coast of the southeast. I could see that happening. And then I could see by the time we get to the end of this weekend, maybe an area of interest being introduced out here in the Atlantic. Could be a 10, 20, 30% chance of a tropical development. And when we say tropical development, that means that there is a percent chance of a tropical depression or a named storm developing between now and 48 hours or either 7 days, which is what this is right here. So right now, National Hurricane Center, it doesn't mean that they don't see what we're about to discuss. It just means that they don't think anything's going to develop anything between now and the next 7 days. So I do want to show you this. I've showed this over the last few videos. The Global Tropics Hazards Outlook shows week 2 and week 3. So this was issued July 29th, so a few days ago. They'll have another one here in the next few days, probably sometime next week. But between August 6th and August 12th, they think that there's around a 20% chance of a tropical system developing in this area, with the red and white striped area is here on your screen. So they're saying 20% chance of tropical development. So we got to watch basically areas of the eastern Gulf, off the coast of the southeast, and just the southwest Atlantic. And then between the 13th and the 19th of August, which is basically mid-month, is saying, hey, watch the MDR, Main Development Region, way out here in the Atlantic. There's a 20% chance of a tropical system developing in this time frame and in this area. So these are two areas to watch. I could see this being tweaked a little bit here in the next few days when they issue a new update, probably sometime next Monday, next Tuesday, something like that. But they are already, watching time frames and areas out there in the Atlantic in those time frames. So we're going to do a little bit different for people who's been tuning in for a while. We normally show the operational runs first and then the ensembles, but we're going to switch it up and show you ensembles and then the operational run. So we're going to look at the Euro ensemble. Remember, this makes up 51 members, and what I'm about to show you here is if there is a decent in strength low pressure that develops on one out of 51 of these members, it'll reflect as an L on your screen. Don't focus so much on the strength of that low pressure, which remember, the lower, for example, this number goes, the stronger the low pressure, but how many L's you see on your screen. So we're going to start this around Tuesday morning of next week. There's probably going to be some sort of tropical wave that emerges off Africa and will have a shot to develop. Now, I will say model guidance has struggled a little bit with waves that are still over Africa and trying to say they're going to develop, and then the model guidance ends up dropping off. It drops the signal. So let's keep that in mind. But this is probably the heaviest main development region signal that we've seen so far this hurricane season. And as we start to get into Wednesday, you start to see more L's in this area. Don't focus so much on this. Listen, this could take a quick name. Next name is Dexter. I could see this developing into something. But as of right now, let's not focus so much on that here, because I don't think even if it does develop, it's going to really bother anybody but the fish out in the ocean. And if they're tuning in, sorry to offend you guys. But let's continue to move forward here. Thursday morning, more L's begin to show up on your screen. This is next Thursday morning. And then we get into next Friday morning. More L's showing up. Now the signal's starting to gain some latitude. We have, I'm not going to try to count them, but that's at least 20 low pressures, right? That's not literally 20 that's going to develop, but remember, this is an ensemble run, and it blends all the small guys together on this output, throws all the L's on your screen. So we got 20-ish members, maybe more than that, out of 50-something. So that's a decent signal. And then it gets even stronger. Now, this is when it begins to spread out. This is a week from today, next Saturday morning. This particular ensemble run likes the idea of a pretty decent in strength low pressure out here. And I'm not talking about a Category 3 hurricane, but it's a heavy signal out here. Now, as we start to get to around the day 7 to day 10 time frame, of course, we got to figure out if something's going to develop first. But if it does, it definitely spreads out as far as where it's going to go. We got a few low pressures gaining latitude, heading back out to sea. And then these are just kind of heading right towards the southwest land. The further south this is, of course, the higher the chance it could affect land and affect somebody out here in the island. So we continue to move forward here, and we get all the way to day 10. This is 10 days from now. If it does develop, we got many members, hooking north, and then we got many members down here, affecting the greater and lesser Antilles, the Caribbean, the Caribbean islands, and then we got some heading towards the Turks and Caicos Islands, the Bahamas. It's not a forecast, guys, but it is a decent signal that we're waking up this morning on the Euro ensemble. Many members showing up, but as it develops, there's a very wide spread as far as where it goes, which is not unusual. And there's some more members behind this too. I want to reiterate this because I'm going to show you the operational run and how it does reflect a couple waves out there. But what about the GEFS ensemble? So this makes up 21 members. It's the GFS ensemble. So I normally favor the Euro ensemble over this, but it shows a signal too. Same thing, we'll start off for a Tuesday morning. We move here in time, and we start to get into late next week. Next Thursday, you can see there's not going to be as many low pressures that show up on your screen, and that's because this only makes up 21 members instead of 51 that I just showed you with the Euro. So you see many L's out there, but I mean, you got some way out here in the Central Atlantic. We got some slipping into the Caribbean. There's a lot going on. Now, as we start to get to around day 9, day 10, some of these members show up here in the Caribbean, the Southwest Atlantic. None of them are overly strong, but, as we start to get to say, let's go just past day 10, you're starting to see a big, wide variety out here. We got members out here in the tropical Atlantic, some slipping into the Southwest Atlantic, the Caribbean, and I'm just going to stop it there. I could go all the way to 360 hours out, but I mean, that's 15 days away, very unreliable, but I will show it just to show it, but it's just going to show a heavy signal of a lot of members and how spread out they are. We got some strong members out here, some hurricanes, weak members. We got some runs that don't form anything, so remember that also. So last thing I'll show you here off ensemble guidance is the chances of a tropical depression developing between now and the next 10 days off the Euro ensemble. And it really likes that wave developing that we just discussed. I'm going to show it here on the operational run here in a second. So it has a 60-70% chance, even a little area showing around 70 to 80% chance of a tropical depression developing out here in the main development region. Now we see this a lot, and a lot of times stuff does not develop. This doesn't always, there's some members that skew this, so just remember that. But decent chance that we're going to have a trackable wave, in my opinion, between now and the next 10 days, especially after we get into next week. Now, if we do look at operational runs, okay, this is the Euro, and we're going to start this off Thursday of next week, August the 7th. If I forget to mention a time frame, you can look up here. Just focus on the date, not so much Zulu time. There's a tropical wave. If this makes it, gets, off Africa, cruises over the central Atlantic, it's still not the best conditions out here. But if it can survive the Southwest Atlantic, which is once you get kind of north of the Greater Antilles, Puerto Rico, the Leeward Islands, stuff like that, it is more favorable. So what happens here is we get between day 7 and day 10, two things are going on. We got a tropical storm developing way out here, not really bothering anybody. Of course, Bermuda is right here. We got to watch them. But then we got another wave right here and another wave right here. This is about 10 days out. Now we flip this and look a little bit closer to home. Same thing. There's that stronger low pressure developing. Now as we get past day 10, this starts to develop into a strong tropical storm, even a hurricane at this point, just east of Bermuda. And then we got a wave slipping into the Caribbean. And that wave, and by the way, this turns into a pretty strong hurricane as it moves out into the North Atlantic and doesn't bother anybody. But then we got a wave slipping into the Caribbean. You never like to see that. And it's strengthening, but look, it's way out there. This is getting into like the mid-month time frame, August 16th. But we do have a strengthening tropical system turning into a hurricane as it gets into the Western Caribbean. So model guidance is starting to pick up on some stuff out here, getting a little bit more aggressive. The GFS, though, it's funny, the Euro normally is more conservative and the GFS is more crazy. We call it the drunk uncle model sometimes, especially in the winter. But the GFS has sort of been the one that's just been relaxed, conservative. But, we take it into next Friday morning. That's what's left over the wave that the Euro likes to develop and turn into a hurricane way out in the Atlantic. It doesn't survive that one. Well, it doesn't pick up on that wave surviving. And then we get past 10 days and it doesn't develop anything out here. Nothing. The GFS a little bit closer to home. I would watch energy in the Southwest Atlantic, the Caribbean, but it doesn't do anything. So there's a big difference there, but remember the ensemble guidance doesn't really back that much. The ensemble for the GFS is pretty aggressive. What about that Euro AI model that we talk about sometimes? Well, it's went back to being aggressive. It takes that tropical wave that we just discussed, the first one, and by the time we're between day 7 and day 10, has it north of the Lesser Antilles, getting just north of Puerto Rico. Here it is right here on your screen, and watch what it does with this. Something about the Euro AI model, it likes to hit Florida with hurricanes. And it takes this, cruises this through the Bahamas, has a strengthening tropical system. And we have a Category 1 hurricane hitting around Miami, August 14th. Now, that's not me saying that's going to happen. That's just what this model run is showing. This is 312 hours out, guys. But it is wild, just because it shows some consistency with ensemble guidance and the Euro. So it does have a landfalling system, and then it slips into the Gulf and then tries to redevelop into a stronger hurricane as it heads toward the Gulf coastline about mid-month. So we got to watch all this. Listen, at the end of the day, if you kind of wrap all this up, we are entering a more favorable atmospheric environment for the Atlantic as we get into mid-August. And that does not go well with what's already the fact that we are entering more of a higher tropical activity time period climate-wise. So, peak hurricane season is right around the corner. If we get a more favorable MJO pulse of rising air over the Atlantic, this allows for more convective activity. Combine that with everything else like sea surface temperatures, things could get crazy fast is what I'm trying to say. So that's why I'm just trying to make these videos now, make people aware. But moving past that, talking about today's weather, what we got going on here? Well, we got a lot of moisture off the Carolina coastline. This is going to try to do something tricky here in the coming 48, 72 hours. We got a little bit of rain over South Dakota and just a little bit of flash flood warning here in eastern Oklahoma. Rain not moving much, just trapped under some frontal boundaries on a ridge here. But overall, guys, there's not really much to discuss as far as what's going on out there currently. And, it reflects well when we look at watches, warnings, and advisories. It's quiet out there. It's nice not to see all these heat advisories and extreme heat warnings, extreme heat watches. I mean, you're hanging on to that heat for dear life here in southern Florida. You're not going to get a cold front that sweeps Florida this time of the year. I mean, we know that, but not much to talk about there. Now, the Storm Prediction Center, there's a marginal risk south of this frontal boundary that's draping across the Carolinas and Georgia. So we had some big storms yesterday in the Carolinas with the front moving in. I mean, they were packing a punch. Strongest winds I've seen since spring. So you're probably going to experience something like that here in the southern half of Georgia, northern Florida, southern Alabama today. So be aware of that. Then we got a slight risk across the central and southern high plains. There is a 2% risk of a tornado. More of a June look, in my opinion. 2% risk of a tornado within 25 miles in a given location. Wind threat, 15% risk. We'll zoom into this a little bit. 15% risk of winds exceeding 55 to 60. And the hail threat, 15% risk of 1 inch in diameter or larger hail. The excessive rainfall outlook, we'll watch out for some flash flooding here in the panhandle of Oklahoma, Texas, very small section of Kansas and Colorado there, and Oklahoma also. And then I do want to watch some pockets of heavy rain here in eastern Tennessee, down to Dalton, Georgia, and even watch here in southwest North Carolina. We could have some heavy rain, Waynesville, Cherokee. Just be mindful of some heavy rainfall in this area. And then just this area is just going to be driven off just being along and south of that front. Heavy rain, precipitation values will be high, so expect some heavy rainfall potential in this region. But there'll be other areas in this region that doesn't pick up a whole lot of rain. And speaking of what the radar could look like today, starting off this morning, a lot of moisture off the coast of the southeast, and that's what I'm talking about. We got a lot of moisture hanging out over southwest and southwest North Carolina and then southeast Tennessee. We got some thunderstorms over Georgia, the southern half of Alabama. Looks very rainy in the southern half of Georgia. And look at that little spinning low pressure based off the HERM model. And so just a closer look at this where I think a lot of rainfall could happen today. We'll get to 5 p.m., we get to 7 p.m., and just a lot of thunderstorm activity. Columbus, Macon, Albany, Valdosta, down to Savannah, Tybee Island. A lot of thunderstorm activity potential later this evening. These could produce some heavy rainfall. There's going to be some sort of boundary in place kind of around this area where you won't get as much rain, just cooler temperatures. But just a nice cooler weekend for the Carolinas. Not the best weather, but temperature-wise, fantastic. I don't care what anybody says. We need a break from the heat. But just rain dance around. Just be mindful of some of these producing some pretty heavy rainfall. And just looking at how much rainfall could happen between now and about 8 p.m. tomorrow. It's picking up on Charleston, picking up a lot of rain, 2 to 3 inches of rain. And by the way, I'm heading to the beach today, Folly Beach, which is, if you know where Folly Beach is, right? It's the beach in Charleston area. So hoping for no rain. But if it's a cloudy day, I'll take it, right? 2-3 inches of rain in Savannah this weekend, and just the southern half of Georgia. A lot of rain could fall, guys, and into Alabama too. So we're going to zoom through the rest of this. The Northeast, nothing to speak on. Fantastic weather day. Enjoy your day. Here's your 8 seconds of fame there. South Central U.S. Now we're going to get some big thunderstorms, fires off Colorado. So you see eastern Colorado here. These storms could pack a punch, damaging winds. Not going to zoom into this But we got some tropical downpours here in southeast Texas too, and Louisiana that'll be rumbling around. These storms will move into, areas of western Kansas, the Panhandle of Oklahoma, the Panhandle of Texas. Be mindful of these storms. Woodard, Guyman, Amarillo. These storms could pack a punch for sure. So just be aware of that. And then we move forward here, and then everything will begin to diminish. We look at the north central U.S. Same thing. Just be mindful of some storms here in western Nebraska, and maybe a lone storm or two here in South Dakota. Outside of that, the upper Midwest, the Great Lakes region, nice. We're probably going to get a lot of rain that we're waking up to here in the eastern Dakotas and eastern Nebraska. So Sioux Falls, Sioux City, just be mindful of the rain that you can wake up to tomorrow. But out west, not a whole lot to speak on. Just some showers going through the central and northern Rockies. Some storms are possible up in Montana. But not a whole lot to speak on. Temperatures, it's nice. It's a little bit of a break. Florida's still going to be hot. But everybody's kind of getting a break from the hot air. Everybody. Even if you're getting in the upper 80s, low 90s, we'll take it. We'll take it, right? It's just been brutal. So, yeah, temperatures look nice. Western U.S. looks nice also. So nothing too crazy one way or the other, honestly. So let's do our Bible devotion. I'm going to make this my timestamp. And I need to adjust my camera. I think that when I kind of hunch down, my face is probably a little bit too low on the screen. So I'll adjust that for the next video for sure. But this morning, Bible devotion, we're in 1 Peter chapter 3. I think it's chapter 3. Yeah, chapter 3, verse 13 through 17. It says, "Who then will harm you if you are devoted to what is good? But even if you should suffer for righteousness, you are blessed. Do not fear what they fear, or be intimidated. But in your hearts regard Christ the Lord as holy, ready at any time to give a defense to anyone who asks for a reason for the hope that is in you. You do this with gentleness and respect, keeping a clear conscience, so that when you are accused, those who disparage those who disparage your good conduct in Christ will be put to shame. For it is better to suffer for doing good, if that should be God's will, than for doing evil." So that's the first time I've had a hiccup with a word reading Bible scripture in quite some time. So that's good. Had a good streak going. But once again, that's 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 13 through 17, if you want to read that a little bit more clear with me. But the couple notes I put is fear God, not things of this world. And listen, I know that's hard. I know that's hard, but that's what we're called to do. Fear God, no, that's not that hard, right? But not fearing things of this world is going to be difficult. But be completely all in and devoted on doing what is good in the Lord's eyes. For if you suffer for your faith, you are blessed. Be prepared to defend your faith. When doing this, be genuine and approach with love. Remember, God's will might bring you through tough times, but it will always be better than doing evil things. I want to go back to what I said. Be prepared to defend your faith. When doing this, be genuine and approach with love. So I'll hit on the first thing. Be prepared to defend your faith. Listen, sometimes it's tough to have a conversation. One thing that I pray for sometimes, and I forget to do it every night, but as I pray that God, give me the words to say when someone even challenges what I believe in. Give me the knowledge, make me wise, and help me say things that are going to make the other person that is asking understand what I'm saying and understand why I believe what I believe and sharing my faith, right? And the second part of that is, when doing this, be genuine and approach with love. And I think that's even more important, because sometimes we can get very defensive. And I read in the comments sometimes, not always, but when the videos pop off, people are like, why are you mixing religion with weather? Well, what I believe in is with everything, right? God is number one priority in everything that I do. So, of course I'm going to mix it with it. It's a very odd comment in my eyes. I know where it stems from, but so of course, I could get irritated and respond in a rude way, but instead I just say, hey, God is good. God is in everything that I do. And sometimes you just got to leave it at that. But, don't be judgmental when you talk to others. Don't think that you're high and mighty because you're a follower of Christ. So don't talk down to people. Maybe you're talking to someone, you don't sound like you're talking down to them, but just have great situational awareness skills with everything you do in life, but especially when you're sharing your faith, guys. The more I go in life, the older I get, the more I realize how people just do not know how to respond in certain situations. I mean, they just don't. People are terrible at communication, and I don't know why. Well, I kind of know why, but it leaks into that too. So just make sure your tone is there, and do it out of love. Listen to the person. Don't listen to speak. Listen to what the person's saying. Understand that, and then follow through the rest of your conversation, and know where to apply things where it needs to be applied. I know many people that they're not taking in anything that I'm saying. They're just waiting for it to respond to something. So we all know God's will is going to bring us through tough times. Listen, Jesus suffered for us. He made the ultimate sacrifice. And he stayed true. I think the story of Jesus suffering mentally, physically, spiritually, and dying on the cross to save us from our sins is the ultimate never give up, never back down story. I mean, you think about it. I know this is going to sound corny, but even when I'm trying to stick to my diet and I really want some pizza, I think, you know what? I can't handle not going without pizza or eating a donut. And Jesus was strong and went through all that physical pain and all that just suffering. And I can't just go without a piece of pizza. And I know that sounds crazy, but I think of it like that sometimes. I think of it when I worry about ridiculous stuff. That's when that perspective thing kicks in, right? I know it's getting a little off track from the scripture, but I mean, Jesus stayed true. He was tempted. He was tempted by Satan. But he stayed true. He followed through, and that's what we're called to do as followers of Christ. So that's all I got, guys. Thank y'all for tuning in. God bless all y'all. Just asking for prayers I get to the beach and back safely today. And I appreciate y'all very much. And that's all I got. God bless, and we'll talk again soon.